Welcome, viewers. Today we reveal how blind pride destroyed a rich empire, turning its great wealth to dust. In the late 70s, Iran was an incredibly wealthy nation, gleaming with bright skyscrapers. Yet, beneath this bright surface of immense luxury, a storm of fierce anger was quietly brewing. Urgent intelligence reports flashed red with dark warnings. But arrogant leaders simply threw them away. When the final warnings were completely ignored, what shocking event forced a mighty king to flee? By 1976, Iran stood as a beacon of wealth, fueled completely by endless oil funds. The royal court bathed in absolute luxury, while tall skyscrapers pierced the sky above the capital. Diplomats constantly praised the Shah's grand vision, calling his kingdom an island of pure stability. Endless petrodollars flowed into massive state projects, building a dazzling illusion of true power. The king believed his ancient throne was completely untouchable, protected by a massive steel army. Lavish royal parties showcased unmatched global wealth, blinding elites to the dark reality below. Officials wore perfectly tailored European suits, sipping expensive champagne in massive glass halls. They built a glorious fantasy world for themselves, totally disconnected from the struggling masses. The supreme ruler stood alone by his vast window, looking down at the gleaming city he built from dust. His arrogant pride convinced him that his money could simply buy endless loyalty from every citizen. State media constantly broadcast messages of total victory, hiding all signs of pure weakness. Behind closed doors, powerful men only whispered sweet praises, terrified of speaking any harsh truth. They crafted a beautiful echo chamber, where the king only heard the comforting sounds of his greatness. But a golden crown, resting on a fragile foundation of lies, is destined to crash when the strong winds blow. Historical archives show the sudden massive wealth caused extreme inflation that severely hurt the poor. While elites imported expensive luxury cars, survival costs soared for the average working man. The vast wealth divide widened into a massive canyon, pushing workers toward extreme and bitter wrath. Yet inside the guarded palace walls, lavish celebrations continued, without a moment of pause. The king's closest advisors actively filtered out bad news, presenting a perfectly peaceful picture. They smiled brightly while holding crystal glasses, fully ignoring the heavy, dark clouds gathering outside. This culture of pure denial became the silent poison that would soon destroy the mighty empire. The army paraded its new weapons, projecting an image of absolute regional dominance. But tanks and jets cannot shoot down an ideology, nor silence the starving stomachs of the poor. A false sense of supreme security wrapped around the government, like a thick but deadly silk blanket. They believed their powerful secret police could easily crush any spark of public rebellion. The Shah, isolated in his royal bubble, lost connection with the very people he aimed to lead. Each grand speech he delivered only proved how far removed he was from the struggles of the working class. The wealthy elite continued their careless spending, blind to the dangerous shifting tides of history. In their blind arrogance, they forgot that empires fall not to foreign armies, but to internal decay. As the sun set on the golden era, shadows of a fierce revolution started stretching across the land. Far from the gleaming glass towers, traditional brick bazaars painted a completely different picture. In the dusty alleys of the Grand Market, an atmosphere of quiet resentment choked the daily air. Western field spies, disguised in worn leather jackets, moved carefully through the dense crowds, observing the tension. They noticed how the common merchants whispered fiercely, their weathered faces showing deep, suppressed anger. The economic miracle praised by the king had bypassed these hard-working traditional people. Beneath the surface, a network of religious scholars began to channel the massive public anger.
We cannot wait much longer.
Elderly clerics with long white beards sat in dim rooms, plotting the complete overthrow of the monarchy. Their traditional robes sharply contrasted with modern suits worn by the corrupt government officials. These secret gatherings were invisible to arrogant leaders, who always ignored the old markets. If you saw your nation's wealth completely ignoring the poor, would you stay silent or fight the crown? Foreign analysts quickly scribbled dark notes, realizing the social fabric was tearing apart. They tracked the sudden surge in illegal cassette tapes, spreading fiery rebel messages in secret. The local workers, wearing rough, mud-stained shirts, gathered in massive numbers at local mosques after dark. A storm of true faith and bitter poverty combined to create a highly explosive powder keg. Each small street protest was quickly silenced, but the tragic loss only fueled the growing fires of hatred. Western agents saw the impending disaster, capturing the grim reality through their lenses. They drafted urgent, top-secret field reports, trying to warn their superiors of the coming collapse. The data showed that the strong army could never stop millions of angry citizens marching together. But transmitting these harsh truths up the strict chain of command proved to be an impossible, frustrating task. The intelligence pipeline was blocked by a toxic culture of fear, denial, and extreme pride. Corrupt advisors intercepted the dark warnings, refusing to let any bad news disturb the king. They locked vital reports in dark drawers, choosing comfortable silence over necessary action. The working class continued to suffer in slums, their daily pain entirely ignored by the elite. Religious leaders transformed this deep pain into a massive, unstoppable holy revolution. The vast divide between the modern palace and the old streets became an unbridgeable, deadly canyon. While the elite drank fine wine, the common people shared bitter tea and swore secret oaths of pure rebellion. Records reveal that the secret police focused only on minor threats, missing the massive rising wave. They chased ghosts in the shadows, while a massive public uprising was organizing in plain daylight. The field agents watched in total horror as their accurate predictions were swept under the royal rug. The deadly countdown had officially started, but men holding the power chose to simply close their eyes. Inside a cramped, smoke-filled intelligence room, a tired analyst stared blankly at his ignored reports. His white shirt was soaked in cold sweat, his desk completely buried under mountains of unread, urgent warnings. He slammed a thick red folder down, completely exhausted by the stubborn blindness of the high command. The data screamed that the Iranian Empire was standing on the fragile edge of a tragic cliff. Yet his urgent messages were quickly destroyed by frightened officials trying to save their own careers. These cowards, dressed in expensive silk ties, preferred a beautiful lie over a terrifying truth. They quietly shredded the vital documents, smiling as they walked back into the grand palace halls. This vast bureaucratic failure is known by historians as a fatal, unforgivable mistake. Isolated in his ivory tower, the Shah remained unaware of the massive public hatred. His generals assured him the recent street riots were just minor events caused by foreign enemies.
Across the border.
They lied directly to his face, projecting a false reality where the royal crown remained supreme. The analyst lit another cheap cigar, his trembling hands revealing his deep internal despair. He knew well that a massive social explosion was coming, and nobody prepared for the fallout. The tragic irony was that the government had all the facts, but totally lacked the courage to act. Faced with clear proof of deep unrest, why do powerful men choose comfortable lies over the cold truth? The state apparatus functioned like a blind giant, heavily armored but unable to see its foes. The silence in the royal court was not a sign of peace, but the terrifying quiet before a storm. Field reports gathered dust in forgotten cabinets, holding the secrets that could have saved the empire. Each passing day of royal inaction allowed angry rebel forces to multiply their massive strength. The analyst watched the ticking clock, feeling the crushing weight of inevitable disaster. He knew no amount of advanced army hardware could ever defeat a united population. The arrogant king built a magnificent fortress of gold, but forgot to build a solid foundation. His trusted advisors had betrayed him not with sharp daggers, but with endless streams of comforting, sweet lies. The establishment was paralyzed by its rigid culture of extreme fear and strict obedience. They clung to their lavish privileges, refusing to share a fraction of power with the masses. The loud ticking of the room clock perfectly mirrored the rapidly declining heartbeat of the regime. By late 1978, millions of angry citizens flooded the streets, demanding the king's fall. The constructed illusion of perfect stability shattered under the deafening roar of the crowd. The generals finally admitted the dark truth, but it was too late to stop the massive tidal wave. The ignored intelligence files were hastily pulled out, but their vital warnings were now fully useless. The analyst packed his small leather bag, knowing his mission in the doomed capital was fully over. The Pahlavi dynasty, heavily armed and incredibly rich, fell by its own stubborn blindness. Documents confirm the royal government simply collapsed under the massive weight of its lies. The arrogant elite had dug their own graves, entirely blinded by the shiny glare of their oil wealth. The golden gates of the palace trembled, ready to burst open under the massive weight of history. The dark winter of 1978 brought an absolute end to the grand royal fantasy. A heavy, freezing rain began to fall sharply across the massive, sprawling city of Tehran. Inside the empty, freezing palace, the once supreme king stood completely alone by a window. His glorious golden crown felt incredibly heavy, burdened by decades of terrible mistakes. The massive and angry crowds outside the high gates were no longer afraid of his strong royal guards. Each hidden, urgent warning from the ignorant past was now becoming a deadly, unstoppable truth. He looked down at a large map of the capital, realizing he had entirely lost his country. The powerful generals who once swore eternal loyalty were rapidly fleeing the sinking ship. Decades of absolute, unchecked power had fully blinded him to the genuine pain of the masses. The weary intelligence agent stood by his dark office window, watching rain wash away the era. His burnt cigar fell from his exhausted hand, fully symbolizing the bitter end of all his hard work. A mighty, unbreakable dynasty was deeply shattered, not by foreign bombs, but by pure arrogance. In the silent winter night, the royal helicopters prepared for a final, desperate escape. The proud king walked slowly into the cold darkness, leaving his magnificent golden throne forever. A once glorious regime simply vanished into the cold, unforgiving shadows of history. The ignored intelligence files remained on the wooden desk, a tragic monument to human folly. This monumental collapse continues to serve as a harsh warning to arrogant leaders worldwide. His tragic fall proves that ignoring the truth will surely destroy even the strongest empires. Was the king a cruel dictator, or just a blind victim of greedy advisors? Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this deep historical dive, please like this video, share it, and subscribe now.